Hello viewer, a warm welcome to Elimu TV where you watch and learn. I'm your teacher, Madam Christine Okot, taking you through Biology Form 2. We're going to have a preview of what we're going to learn in this lesson today. First, we're going to look at the previous assignment. Then we're going to look at the functions of water in plant. Then we're going to look at the process of absorption of water from the roots to the plants. Then finally, I'm going to give you an assignment. Let us first start by reviewing the previous assignment. So the assignment was, what is the difference between epidermis and endodermis in terms of 1, the location, and 2 was the function. First, in terms of the location, the epidermis is the outer layer of the cell of the young root. It is the outermost layer. Then it forms the innermost layer of the cortex, while the endodermis forms the innermost layer of the cortex. So one is the opposite of the other. Epi is the outer and endo is the innermost layer. Then the difference between epidermis and endodermis in terms of their functions, first, the epidermis protects the underlying tissues of the root because it's the outermost. So its work is to protect what is inside the cells. Then the second function of epidermal cells, the epidermal cells and the root hair absorbs water and dissolves iron. So that is the second function. While the endodermis, it facilitates the movement of water from the cortex to the xylem. So that is the difference in terms of the location and the difference in terms of the function. So going to look at absorption. So absorption mainly takes place in the roots. So the roots have specialized cells which are called the root hair cells, which are long and thin. They provide a large surface area for the uptake of water and mineral salts. So the main part of the plant that is responsible for the absorption is the roots, and they have a structure we call the root hair cells, which they are very large and they help to bring up water down from the roots to the parts of the other parts of the leaves. Absorption of water. So what is absorption of water? The plants absorb water from the soil by the process we call osmosis. We have root hair cells which are adapted for this. So by having a large surface area, they speed up the rate of osmosis. So osmosis, this is the process in which the plants will absorb water from the surrounding soil into the root cells. So we have an illustration of osmosis. So how do we define osmosis? We say it is the movement of a higher concentration of water to a lower concentration of water through a semi-permeable membrane. So remember the key words, it is a movement from a higher concentration of water to a lower concentration, and there must be a semi-permeable membrane, a membrane in which the water molecules can move in or they can pass through. The soil particles are usually surrounded by a film of water, except when there is only drought. So the root hair, they absorb the water from the soil by the process of osmosis. So we have an illustration showing how the root cells absorbs the water. So we have the water, the soils, they have a film of water surrounding them. So the water enters now from the soil into the root hair through the process of osmosis. So from the root hair, they go down until they reach the xylem, where the xylem transports the water to all parts of the plant. So why is the water important in plants? So we have various functions of water. First, the absorbed water is transported through the roots to the rest of the plants, where it is used for different purposes. So the first purpose, it is a reactant used in Photosynthesis. In the process of photosynthesis, water is a raw product that is very essential in the process. So the water has to be present for the process of photosynthesis to take place. Secondly, this water which has been absorbed from the root, it supports leaf and shoots by keeping the cells rigid. It also helps in transpiration. As the water evaporates, it helps in cooling the leaves by the process of evaporation. And lastly, this water that is absorbed from the root, it transports dissolved minerals around the plant, because these minerals cannot transport themselves. So they need to be dissolved in the water, then they are able to be transported to all parts of the plants. So those are functions of the water within the plant organism. So we look at the process of absorption. So the cell sap of the vacuole, it normally has a higher concentration of salt and sugar. So it is therefore hypotonic to the water found between the particle. So most of the water absorbed by the plants, they will enter the region of the root hair. Then the water enters the root hair from the soil by the process of osmosis, then down a water potential gradient. Then the water will move from the soil into the root. So it continues from the first cell to the second cell, all through the process of osmosis, because there's a difference in the concentration gradient. Now, due to the concentration gradient, that is the difference of the gradients, the water will move from the soil to the root hair into the cell sap. So this ensures that there is a continuous uptake of water as long as the concentration of salt is higher than that of soil. So as long as there is a difference between the two concentrations, the flow of water will continue coming up. So in our illustration, it demonstrates how the water moves from the soil. It enters the root hair by osmosis. Then the water passes across the root from the cell to the cell by osmosis. It also seeps between the cells. So from the root hair, it goes in between the cells until it reaches. The flows continue because there's a difference between the concentration gradient until it reaches the xylem, which is responsible for the uptake of water. So this is a summary of the water uptake. So how does the water from the soil end up in the xylem vessel? First, it has to start within, this water is within the soil. So the water from the soil is absorbed into the root hair cell. From the root hair cell, this water still moves across from there to the cortex of the cell. Then it moves across the phloem. This is a tissue which is responsible for the transport of mineral salts. Then from the phloem, it goes directly, still using the process of osmosis, into the xylem vessel. Then from the xylem vessel, the vessel will uptake more water to be substituted or to be transported to the leaves where it is needed for the process of photosynthesis. We look at the importance of the mineral salts. We have looked at the importance of water within the plant. Now we look at the importance of mineral salts because they are also part of the substances which are transported within the plant. So the plants, they need carbon dioxide and water for the process of photosynthesis. As much as they need that, they also need mineral salts for healthy growth. So where do plants get the mineral salts from? They are always dissolved in the soil particles, and so the plants, they will absorb these nutrients in the water when they take in the water from the soil. So there are three main mineral salts which are very essential in the plants. There are so many, but we're going to look at the three of them. The first mineral salt is nitrogen. This one is needed for the development or for the growth of healthy leaves. Then we have phosphorus, which is needed for healthy roots. Lastly, we have potassium, which is very essential for the healthy flowers and the development of the fruits. So how are these mineral salts absorbed from the soil? So the soil water is a dilute solution. It contains the mineral ions such as the potassium, the magnesium, and the nitrates. So the uptake of minerals is by a process we call the active transport and diffusion. So active transport, this is the process in which the particles, they will move from a region of low concentration to a region of high concentration against the concentration gradient with the use of energy. So there has to be a use of energy there. So we have an illustration demonstrating how minerals are transported using the active transport. The first illustration, we have the concentration of the mineral salts. It is moving up, so it needs energy. It's just like the way you can be climbing a ladder up. You'll need more energy to climb up than when you are climbing down. That's why this process, it needs more of energy. So the higher concentration of molecule is always at like the top of the slope, and the lower concentration of molecules is at the bottom of the slope. So there will be use of energy because it's moving against. Then in diffusion, the molecules can roll down the slope without using energy. So diffusion does not need energy, while in active transport, the energy is needed because it's moving from up going down. It's the opposite. Once the water and the mineral salts are absorbed into the root hair cells, they need to reach the xylem for distribution to all parts of the plant. So as they reach the root cell, they will not stop at there. They have to be distributed because they are not just needed at the root hair cells, they are needed to other parts of the plants. So they move now from the soil into the root cell, then into the cortex. So the cortex cell, which is adjacent to the root, it normally has a higher concentration of salt. So this it has a higher osmotic pressure than that of the root hair. So there's a difference between the concentration at this point. So the water will tend to move from the root hair into adjacent cortex cell by osmosis. So as long as there is a difference between the concentration gradients, the water particles which the mineral salts are dissolved in, they will continuously move from one cell to the other. So this is how the process goes. Now, from the first cell, it becomes more diluted compared to the next cell. Now it will move, so the second cell will draw water from the first cell using still the process of osmosis. So this process will continuously move on from the cell until it reaches the xylem. So we have an illustration illustrating how the process of absorption of mineral salts take place. So it starts from the root hair, where the mineral salts are dissolved in the water. Then, due to the higher water concentration, the dissolved ions and the water will move in to the root hair cells. Now, the lower water concentration, it will help it to move from the first cell to the second cell, still using the process of osmosis. Then when they reach the xylem vessel, that is where the water will be taken up to be distributed throughout the plants. So I have an illustration that is going to summarize what we've just discussed about the uptake of water from the root hair cells to the xylem, which will be in turn distributed to all parts of the plants. So this is just a summary. So first, the water, they flow from the soil into the cell sap of the root hair by the process of osmosis. So the salts are also dissolved inside the water. All the potassiums, the nitrates, all of them are dissolved. They move. The movement of water from the roots to the parts of the plants above ground is called ascent of the sap. So the vessel which is responsible for the uptake is the xylem vessel. After it has been absorbed, it goes directly to the xylem vessel. So first they move in from the root hair to the epidermal cell, then they go to the cortical cells, then to the endodermis cell, and finally to the xylem vessel, which is responsible for the uptake. The physical and chemical properties of water and the composition of walls of the xylem vessel, they will help to transport water from the roots to the leaves through the vessel we call the xylem. So the xylem vessels, they are made of lignin and cellulose, which have strong attraction of water molecules. That has been our lesson for today, and before we leave, I'm going to leave you with an assignment, and the assignment will be state the importance of the following mineral salts to the plants. The first one is magnesium, phosphorus, and calcium. I have been your teacher, Madam Christine Okot. Thank you for watching. Keep it Elimu.